A well-timed, well-asked question has the potential to change your life and change the trajectory of your life. And the quality of the question can oftentimes determine and affect the quality of the answer. So, how can I develop my gift and ability of asking questions to increase the quality of the answers and responses that I get around me, and or maybe unlock something inside the person that I'm asking the question to, or unlock something in me based on the response that I get from the question that I ask. So, yeah, questions have the potential to have life transformation, life changing effect and impact in somebody's life. Welcome to the EQ Gangster podcast, where you will learn practical tools to grow your mental and emotional health and intelligence to be the best version of yourself, both at work and at home. It is real, raw, and transformational. The journey of emotional growth isn't easy, but it's worth it. I believe in you.
Diving into a topic about asking questions. Now, my husband is the perfect person to interview for this because he is a natural question asker. In fact, before we even got married, I'll never forget, we were walking across a campus together, and I turned to him, and I think I even said it out loud. If I didn't say it out loud, I was thinking it was like, "Are you like the president or something?" Because everyone that we met, he greeted like he knew them, and he asked them questions, and he would walk away knowing all kinds of stuff about this person. And I was like, why are you asking all these questions? How are you even thinking of all these questions? And it was like confusing to me because I wasn't used to that. That was not the way that I normally did things. It was not the way that my brain worked. And it took me a little while to really realize the power of asking questions. And now that we have been in classical conversations for a while, one of the big things that we teach is the power of asking questions. And now that I teach critical thinking, I have realized even more so how powerful it is to be able to ask good questions. In fact, I don't think you can think well if you cannot ask questions. If you don't ask the right questions, if you don't ask any questions, you will never be able to think well about anything, quite frankly. So, I wanted to interview my husband and ask him about how do you ask good questions? How are you so curious? What does this look like? So why don't we start off with this? How did you get to be such a good question asker? Because I would say you are a second generation question asker.
Boom, second gen question asker. So I started because so huge props to my dad and my mom. So my dad, my mom's still around. Dad passed away 15 years ago. So they were the most curious people. I mean, almost probably to this day that I know. My dad was probably the smartest guy that I've ever met, and he was an ER doctor. He was a genius as a kid. The stuff that he would do as a kid was just ridiculously insane, smart stuff. And when he went to med school, he burned himself out his freshman year of med school. He was like top of his class, but burned himself out. So on his break, he went and got his pharmacy degree, his PharmD, became like pharmacy skinny, went through however many years of that to get his PharmD degree, and then finished out med school. So like that was during his break. And so one of the smartest dudes I've ever met, and that he had a relentless curiosity. So even with his big brain, so I thought, dude, you already know, like exponentially more than I will ever know. Why are you asking me? And I remember as a junior high kid and then on to high school kid, and my dad would ask me these massively deep, intense, huge questions. I'm like, Dad, my brain hurts, dude. I don't even know what you're talking about, right? but it just like he had this intellectual curiosity that just was endless. And then my mom, same deal. My mom had more of a social and person curiosity. So she her curiosity was around people specifically, not necessarily like around life or big concepts. It was, but my dad, his was life and big concepts, but my mom was around people. So I got to see kind of the best of both worlds. And my mom to this day, like, I mean, you talk to my mom and she will grill you with questions. And I just saw like the impact and effect. It's questions are a powerful, powerful way to connect with other people along with a bunch of other things. But that's where I got it was from my parents.
And so, what have you seen to be some of the benefits of asking good questions and of having a natural curiosity?
So constant growth, number one. Number two, it builds on curiosity. So it grows curiosity. It feeds curiosity. Number two. Number three is increases connection with other people. Four, it increases wisdom. Five, it increases knowledge and skinny. Six, or whatever I'm on, it it shortens the time to learn. It speeds up the learning process. You can, well, I want to learn all by myself. That's fine. It's just going to take you longer versus asking people who are further down the road, better than you, more experience, higher levels of performance, and you will decrease your time of learning and increase. I would argue maybe this is point number seven, which will enable you to increase your amount of goal accomplishment. So there's a tons of benefits, and that's just off the beam real quick. But again, one of the greatest things is an increased connection and understanding of the people around you.
Yeah, and obviously, since my podcast is all about thinking, um, how have you used questions to help you think about things better, and what has been your process to do that? And I would include people in that too, because when it comes to thinking, a big part of it is learning from other people, right? To be able to get perspective and that kind of thing. So how have you used questions to help you either think on your own or with other people?
So, I mean, this is one of my favorite topics on the freaking planet, and questions are a very like maybe, well, maybe not the number one tool, but man, really close to the number one tool of learning for me. Now, you got to consider the context, right? As a people guy, I value relationships and people tremendously. And so, the way for me to connect and learn more about people and stuff for me is yes, I could Google it, but for me, I like to learn it from a person, a human being, for me personally, because I dig people. And I love learning perspectives. And another thing I love doing is learning strengths of people because then I love affirming people's strengths because a lot of people have not affirmed their strengths. I'm getting off, but it people is is one of again I like asking people questions to increase the connection and also um wisdom in whatever particular area. Like for example, if I want to learn about fitness, I'll go ask somebody that's jacked, a guy or a lady that's jacked. Hey, can you give me skinny on, what's your philosophy or mindset on nutrition or on exercise or jujitsu dude or lady who's great at a particular, even if they're a white belt, if they're better at arm bars than I am, which I'm not good at arm bars, I'll ask the white belt who's, getting everybody in arm bars, like, dude, can you help me understand your mindset on arm bars? How are you thinking about arm bars? How are you approaching arm bars? What is your setup for arm bars? What's your timing for arm? Like I'll try to ask all kinds of questions to get and improve and shorten my time to learn and get better at arm bars. I think I was off a little bit, but on your question there, but
Yeah, and one of the things that I have seen you do on many, many occasions, if there's something that you're thinking about, you will sit there and brainstorm and write down a whole list of questions that you can ask about that thing before you even start asking the questions. So, like, you'll brainstorming the questions for you is just as important as answering the questions.
Oh, yeah, yeah. No, that so I am I legit am a question collector. I collect questions, and I mean, I have probably hundreds by now. But there's listen, a well-timed, well-asked question is has the potential to change your life and change the trajectory of your life. And the quality of the question can oftentimes determine and affect the quality of the answer. So, how can I develop my gift and ability of asking questions to increase the quality of the answers and responses that I get around me, and or maybe unlock something inside the person that I'm asking the question to, or unlock something in me based on the response that I get from the question that I ask. So, yeah, questions have the potential to have life transformation, life changing effect and impact in somebody's life.
And what do you see are the downfalls of not asking questions, right?
Oh
Because you're
man.
married to somebody who was not a good question asker. Our daughter is learning to be a good question asker. But what do you see? Like, what do you see are the downfalls of people who are not curious and just won't or don't think of questions that they can ask?
I mean, the first four chapters in Proverbs are all about the pursuit of wisdom. How, you know, yes, can you pursue wisdom without asking questions? But I don't think you're going to get the fullness of God's word without asking questions. Like I think like and not just God's word, but whatever it is you're trying to study. You're trying to study nuclear medicine or biochemistry or logical thinking. I think in order to again to have a growth mindset, you got to ask questions. And listen, it's a skill and it's a habit that you can grow and develop. Practice asking questions. I would have 2 or 3 questions locked in your chamber, ready to pull the trigger on with anybody that you approach. I love asking people what their purpose in life is. I love asking them what their superpowers are. I love asking them what their strengths are. I love asking them what their hobbies are. All those questions reveal very, very unique and interesting things to me that I love pursuing down rabbit holes to discover because new and exciting stuff about people because everybody knows something that you don't know. Everybody has a strength that you don't have. I love discovering what that superpower is in that person and what their not secret knowledge sounds weird, but like I love finding out what they know that I don't know. And it's fun. I feel like a safari guy where I'm on safari to find out what are they Spider-Man? Are they Superman? Are they Incredible Hulk? Are they Batman? Like I love kind of going on this journey to figure out which superhero they are based on what strengths they have and how they think about stuff. But someone that doesn't ask questions, man, you are, in my opinion, you are locked in a prison that man, I just for me, it's like I value growth is a core value to me, and somebody that does not ask people questions is yeah, is just not getting the most out of life or the people that God has placed in their life. Yeah, so I would, how many conversations are you having each day that are legit productive and challenging and stimulating? And if you're not, that is on you. You can drive and determine the based on your level of intention, the how fun, exciting, challenging, intriguing, adventurous your conversations are based on the quality and type and amount of questions that you bring to the table.
So, what would you recommend for somebody who maybe doesn't necessarily have this natural curiosity that you have, that your parents have, and they're not good at asking questions? They haven't been, but they want to start learning. How can somebody start learning to get better at asking questions?
Practice. There's tons of different exercises that you can do to learn how to become curious. And research is one, right? Here's one that I love doing is you know pick a rando topic. Snowboarding. What are 20 questions that you could ask about snowboarding? Rodeo. What are 20 questions that you could ask about rodeo? The weather. What are 20 questions you could ask about the rodeo, about the weather? Relationships. What are the 500 questions you could ask about relationships? Wisdom, truth, God, the Bible, anxiety, emotions, peace, joy, rivers, stars. Like you've got an endless supply of topics. Practice writing down questions, copying questions, collecting questions. Just make questions part of your everyday battle rhythm. And and when you this is money is pay attention to people that are good at asking questions and ask them how they got good at asking questions. Be intentional at ask, hey, what's your name? My name's Bob. Hey man, you mind if I ask you a couple questions? Yeah, no sweat. I'm practicing on getting better at questions. You mind if I just again practice a couple questions on you? Yeah, no, okay, that's a little weird, but yeah, that's fine. Hey, what are your core values for your life? Oh, snap. Okay, well, here's my okay, sweet. Hey, thank you, man. I appreciate that. And it's not you're not judge it's literally you're just asking questions. There's no judging. There's no it's you're literally just being practicing curiosity, right? Next one is like, well, how did you develop those core values? Like, where do they come from? Well, wow, that's another okay. Well, here's I think some of them from my family, some of them from my basketball team or football or whatever. Some of them from my buddies growing up. Okay, cool. Right. I mean, oh man, I could go on and on, but like practice asking people questions, practice writing down questions, practice, yeah, just practice curiosity. Be intentional at developing the muscle of curiosity.
Well, and I'll never forget when I started working on this skill, because again, I was not a natural question asker. I literally had to write down in advance questions that I could ask people, or else I wouldn't think of it in the moment. Like I just would not think of any questions in the moment. So I had to pre plan them. And to Noble, that sounded so weird, but it's what I had to do to start learning how to do it. If I was going to do it, I had to plan it in advance. And so, even if you have to pre plan some questions and write them down, put them on your phone or memorize them or something, it's worth it. It's worth it to put the time and the effort in. When you think about it, almost any industry that you go into is going to require you to ask some questions. All of science starts with a question. If you learn this, the scientific method, it starts with a hypothesis, with a question. Critical thinking and formal logic, it all started with a question. That was how it was taught, by asking questions. If you're going to be a plumber and you have a plumbing issue, you have to ask a question. What is the problem here? Why is it happening? Where could it be coming from? If you're a doctor and you're treating somebody, you're going to have to ask questions. And the better you can be at asking the questions, the better you're going to be able to find a solution. If you want to be an entrepreneur, guess what? You got to ask a whole bunch of questions. What does my audience want? What is the need? What is missing? What's already out in the market? What's missing from the market? You're going to have to ask and be able to answer all those questions. So, learning this skill is incredibly, incredibly important. Is there anything else that you want to, as we wrap up here, say on this topic? Or can you think of any one question that you asked and it changed your life or changed something so dramatically that your life was different after asking it?
One question that I remember that I didn't even have an answer to was from a book called Becoming a King by Morgan Snyder. The first chapter of the book is about power, and that's an emotion and a thought that I have never thought about ever. And I wasn't even sure. So he kind of starts out, about power. And I don't even remember the context, but one of the first, maybe in the first paragraph, somewhere early on in the chapter, first page, something like that, he asked the question like, what is your relationship with power? How do you think about or feel about power? And I'm like, dude, I have absolutely no idea what this dude is talking about. And so, which was probably partly due to my low EQ at the time because of my lack of, again, self-awareness. And it just was an emotion that I just have not ever felt very often. And so, so much so that I didn't even know how to respond to his question in that book. So anyway, that would be one. But there's tons and tons of great challenging questions. But I love, love, love. That's why I love coaching. I mean, literally, I get paid, and very gratefully a very decent income to ask questions. Like that is literally my job. I get paid to be curious, and thankfully have developed the skill enough and am continuing to develop the skill to learn how to ask better and better questions. Another question that stumped me was from a world-renowned coach named Michael Bungay Stanier, who's written a number. He's New York Times best-selling author. I don't know how many times, and I don't remember what episode he is, but definitely listen to that episode on my podcast, EQ Gangster. Michael Bungay Stanier. It's in the late 200s of the episodes, I want to say, somewhere maybe the mid 200s, late 200s on my episodes. And one of the questions he asked me, he's like, "Hey, man, do you mind if I ask you a question?" I'm like, "Yeah, it's a little weird, but because I'm interviewing you." And he said, "What are you currently struggling with?" And I was like, "Oh, snap. Okay, that's really good." And man, he asked another one. Kind of about what's the intersection between a struggle that you're having and a victory that you're having or something like that. And I was like, wow, dude, I got to think about that. So anyway, it was another fun one, but from again, a master level question asker as a world renowned life coach, business coach, kind of guy. It was amazing. And so anyway, that would be another one. But yes, I'm very thankful for the gift of curiosity because now I get paid to be curious.